Uh, wow. Okay. Talk about getting the rug pulled out from under you. Again, I'm riding a high after the Mariners absolutely beat down the Mets, and then they run right into a freaking buzzsaw. The the Detroit Tigers. The Detroit Tigers. The Detroit Tigers sweep the Mariners in a three-game set. We're going to get into that in this episode. That's going to be a real horrible time, but we got to do it. I called myself out about this very thing, you know, so I got to own the good and the bad, and that's what we're going to do. We're also going to talk about this rumored and what I think is a very strange proposal of the major league rule change, a 6 inning minimum for starting pitchers. And we're also going to talk about what to expect from the Mariners going forward as they start a 3 game set with the Pittsburgh Pirates this weekend. All that coming right up on today's episode. Welcome to Keep It Electric with Tremayne Person, episode 47. This recording is taking place on Friday, August 16th. The Seattle Mariners are now 3 games back behind the Houston Astros, second place in the AL West with a 63-59 record. On the outside looking in on the wild card race, 3.5 games back behind the Kansas City Royals. All right, so we're going to start this episode off with this new rule that they're discussing in Major League Baseball. That's implementing that starting pitchers must go 6 innings minimum into their starts. Now, first, because I haven't really gone down this avenue of topics on this show before, let's first go ahead and acknowledge that the MLB is doing everything they can to make the game more exciting. So before we start blaming the commissioner, Rob Manfred, and calling him crazy, I do want to say that I do believe he and his office, they have the best intentions on increasing the entertainment of the game. No matter how crazy some of these ideas may initially sound, in 2023, we saw the addition of the pitch clock, which I absolutely love. It's speeding up the game a lot. I wasn't a big fan of the shift change initially, but that really grew on me, and I've learned to like that too. The pickoff throw limit, amazing. That should have happened ages ago. Limiting the amount of times pitchers can step off and manipulate the game, I think that's great for the sport, and they are clearly working on and continuously tweaking things. So let's hear this one out. I definitely have an opinion on it, by the way, and I'll get to that. But let's just start here with the quote of a Major League Baseball official. Quote, "We are interested in increasing the amount of action in the game, restoring the prominence of the starting pitcher, and reducing the prevalence of pitching injuries. There are a whole host of options in addressing those issues." Okay, end quote. The okay was not in the quote, but okay, understood. The primary goal also is a minimum innings rule would be to immediately restore the prestige of the starting pitcher. Fans would be able to tune into a game knowing that he would be on the mound for the majority of it. All right. So, number one, I don't think there's a single starting pitcher out there who doesn't want to go a minimum of 6 innings. I am sure that every single starting pitcher, if you would ask them, they want to throw a complete game and shut out and overpower their opponents every time. That's simply not possible. You have to factor in the health, performances like earned runs, pitch counts, matchups, etc. So the MLB, apparently they have an answer for that too. So they call it carve-outs. Instances where a pitcher doesn't have to meet those requirements. He throws 100 pitches, carve-out. Allows 4 earned runs or more, carve-out. Or, I don't mean to laugh here, or he gets injured severely enough that requires a stint on the injured list, to avoid manipulation with the 6 inning rule. Okay. I think we're getting a little carried away here. That's where you start to lose me, because pitch counts and innings limits, those are put in place for starters to limit their injury. Like, take a young arm like a Mariners arm, for instance, Brian Wu. Like, he was on a pitch count for majority of the year this year to save his health, prevent arm fatigue. Does this mean guys like him suddenly become a relief pitcher? MLB feels that clubs have gotten away with conditioning their starting pitchers to go that long. That might be true. So this would actually force organizations to develop their pitchers in order to meet these new standards. I don't know. I still think that is a really tough ask, especially in this velocity war that we're dealing with in the league. Guys out here throwing 104, 105 miles an hour like that. I mean, injuries and arm fatigue are going to happen. But at the same time, I can say that I do agree with the idea of forcing the hand of development to have their pitchers develop a more nuanced repertoire of pitches so they can navigate some of these situations. For instance, you pull out a lot of pitchers before you get through the order for the third time, because these batters have figured it out and analytics have given it away that the third time through the order is when, batters do the most damage. And to be clear, like, I don't think that this rule change is going to happen anytime soon. I just think it's worth having a conversation. But I do like the idea of them testing things. Like, for instance, I think the 6 inning rule would be so much better with the double hook rule. So the double hook rule, that's where the starter completes at least 5 innings. If the starter does complete those 5 innings, teams can retain the DH for the rest of the game. Okay, now I like that. I think that's a great idea. And honestly, I don't think you need the 6 inning rule to have the double hook rule. I think if you have a DH and your pitcher does not make it 5 innings, then you have to put what? Then the pitcher would have to come up to bat, or you can actually have a bench player come pinch hit for the pitcher, which I think also incentivizes the club to have a better bench. So the other thing I really like about this is that it takes away the bullpen games. So, and we should actually know a bit about bullpen games because we got several of those against the Tigers both this week and last week. So basically, if you want to risk taking out your pitcher early, then you have to be prepared for those pitchers to have to take it at bat. And I think, again, this opens up the opportunity for you to use your depth as well. Have some pinch hitters come in. It incentivizes your club to have bats of value on the bench for these situations. I like that idea. The 6 inning minimum idea, that can go away. But the double hook DH, I like that. So again, I think it's going to be a while before anything like this comes to fruition. But I do think it sparks a pretty worthy conversation. We'll transition into a recap of the Mariners series against the Tigers after this break. Okay, let's be honest here. This series absolutely sucked. The Tigers have had our number for some reason. It's beyond my understanding in many ways, but the Tigers, they just straight up kicked our ass. This entire year, they beat us 5 out of 6 games. It's painful. It's honestly pretty freaking gross. I have no idea how we can run through these awesome teams like the Mets, the Phillies. We play the Braves really well. They're National League teams, but still, I don't know how we can run through those teams. We can beat the Astros. And then we just get our legs cut out from under us by a sub-500 team like the Detroit Tigers. I have to own a couple things. I was dead wrong. I couldn't have been more wrong when it came to this most recent 3-game set. I said don't expect much from Kerry Carpenter, who is returning from injury. Well, that didn't age well. Bad take, Tremayne. I get it. He only went 4 for 12 with 3 home runs and 5 ribbies. Those 5 ribbies were more runs than the Mariners scored this entire series. I said the Mariners were going to win 2 out of 3 games. Wrong again. The only thing I was right about was that Tarek Skubal was going to shut us down in game 1. I did not expect the clunker that Kirby was going to put out. 2 2/3, 12 hits, 6 earned runs, 5 Ks. The Tigers have figured out their approach with Kirby. We've seen some teams do this in the past. Kirby is a strike thrower. He's going to throw strikes. He's going to challenge you. So you might as well swing. But when you look at some of these big hits that the Tigers had in game 1, and this is not just Kirby. This is basically the entire pitching staff in game 1. They just didn't have it. You look at those hits, the entire pitching staff was throwing cookies. They were middle. They were middle up, middle low. They were just offering out cookies. So any Major League Baseball player, they may not have a problem with any team offering out cookies the way the Mariners were offering those out. Kirby is human, and he's going to have a bad game every once in a while. What I did like, if I had to like anything, what I did like about this game was when it was over, and then what Kirby said after the game. This is the quote that I love. "I'm not going to take my foot off the gas. It's 1 out of 33 games that I'll pitch this year, and I'm bleeping excited for Kirby." Oh, excuse me. I messed up his own quote. "I'm bleeping excited for Pittsburgh next week." Has anyone ever seen a pissed off Kirby? It's happened before, and whenever he calls his shot like this, I fear for the opposition. Come Sunday, Pittsburgh is going to have a handful, and they're going to need to come correct if they want to get to Kirby. The Mariners offense scored 4 total runs this series, 9 total hits, 3 of them from a guy with an ankle sprain. That's Julio, 3 of the 9 hits. And he didn't even play in the 3rd game. Kirby's clunker aside, that's not winning baseball. There's no winning baseball to be had with porous offensive performances like this. The Mariners were held to 1 hit by Alex Fado, who actually walked in the only run in game 3. Kenta Maeda, Shelby Miller, they held the Mariners scoreless for 7 innings. Both of them have ERAs over 6 and 5 respectively. This is how much of a joke this became. Jason Foley, who is he is a mid-level reliever, the closer for the Tigers. It's not like those 4 guys, they held the Mariners to 1 hit. It's not like those guys woke up in the morning and decided they wanted to be Nolan Ryan for the day. This is the most consistent offensive output of the Mariners that we've grown to know, to be honest. This is why we celebrate like we won the Super Bowl when the Mariners put up double-digit runs on the Mets. Because more times than not, this is the offensive output we get. This is where we're at. And I don't really want to hear anything about the bullpen. Yes, they've been giving up runs lately, but let's just get serious. We cannot put 100% of the weight on the bullpen. This is part of a much bigger problem. The pitching staff, let's look into this. The pitching staff leads all of Major League Baseball in the following categories. ERA. They're tied for first in shutouts with the Braves. First in hits allowed. First in runs allowed. First in walks allowed. First in whip. First in batting average. The pitching staff rocks. So, I don't think it needs to be spelled out at this point. We can talk about the Mariners, or we can talk about their offensive players all day long, but I'm no longer believing that it's even their fault. There's something going on within the organization that's causing some really reliable bats to come to Seattle and put on their worst performances of their career. Let's look at it. We've seen this time and time again, and there's actually just even more recent samples and more recent examples. I think the most recent is Teoscar Hernandez. Don't get me wrong. He's got plenty of help in LA. He's surrounded by really good bats that relieves a lot of pressure off of him at the plate. But the dude's K rate went up 3% when he came to Seattle. When he left Seattle, it went back down to the K rate he had in 2022. let's look at Mitch Garver. His K rate's up 7% year over year. Jorge Polanco's K rate's up 5% year over year. Gino, his K rate's down 3% and closer to how he was performing before he ever came to Seattle. Ty France, since he left Seattle, his K rate's down 9%. He's actually looking like the Ty France we loved 2 or 3 seasons back. So I don't know if we really need to keep saying, oh, it's only a matter of time before these new additions or batters get going. I think it's a philosophy that's not yet set here in Seattle. Something clearly needs to change, and I don't think that it's the players. Anyways, the Mariners lose all 3 games to the Tigers, 15-1 in Game 1, 3-2 in Game 2, thanks to a walk-off hit from Akil Baddoo, a player hitting 143 on the year, and then an 8th inning 2-run shot by Javi Baez off of Andres Munoz. You can't even write this. I mean, I think you run that at bat back 99 times, and it wouldn't go that way. Baez is hitting under the Mendoza line as well, 188. So just like, wow. Looking ahead to the Mariners' next series, they start a 3-game set with the Pittsburgh Pirates in Pittsburgh. PNC Park has a park factor of 1.034, which is pretty neutral. Slight favor to the hitters. Not a lot of balls are flying out of the park in Pittsburgh, so that doesn't really favor the Mariners' style of play right now, especially with their contact rate being so low already. The edge is given to the lefties, so maybe we could see better performances from the likes of Luke Raley. Big Dumper could probably have a good time hitting in PNC. I don't think that would start tonight, however, because they will be trying to get hits off of rookie sensation Paul Skeens. I'm excited to watch this one because I'm excited to watch him pitch, but I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be a blast. He's got a 4-seamer that averages right at 99 miles per hour. That Splinker hybrid pitch is absolutely insane. Maybe if I keep talking him up, though, and talking down the Mariners' bats, they're going to rough him up tonight. I have my doubts, but, I could dream. He's going to throw that Splinker a lot. He's going to top that fastball out over 100 miles an hour. I imagine the Mariners are just going to play the waiting game. They're going to have a lot of patience at the plate. That's got to be the key. Have him throw a lot of pitches and get to that bullpen as quickly as possible. And then if you can get to that bullpen with the lead, you might be able to get out of there tonight. But if you don't have the lead and Paul Skeens are out of the game, the Mariners, they're really going to be fighting an uphill battle because Aroldis Chapman's going to come in with that 103, 104 mile an hour pitch. So fastball. So you gotta like, this isn't going to be an easy win. The Mariners are trying to stay clear of losing their 4th game in a row. Logan Gilbert, who's also been great all year, he'll be on the mound. I imagine he's going to be doing everything he can, as always, to keep the Mariners in the game. The Pirates are 56-64 in the year. They've lost 10 in a row. This is a winnable series for the Mariners. They just really need those bats to wake up, get your 4 or 5 runs, let the pitching do the rest of the talking. I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. I'll be back here next Tuesday to discuss the action. Until then, keep it electric. Go Mariners.